Well, in managing absenteeism, it's a common problem we face. And as a manager, you probably are wondering what steps can you do to address or combat this issue? Some of your absences are direct in the sense that the employee has no reasonable excuse. Some of your issues could be related to absences due to medical reasons or emergency issues. Now, before you navigate this particular issue of absences, there are two guiding principles of the law that you need to understand. The first is called equity. Equity dictates that whatever your underlying staffing issue is, as a manager, you need to observe this legal requirement which dictates that you should manage with equity. Equity is translated roughly to mean be fair to your employee. And that's what our law obliges you to do as a boss. The law does not mandate that you manage the staff legally or technically compliant. It is important to note that when a staff complains or lodges a complaint of unfair dismissal, right, he or she does not go to the Industrial Relations Department or later on to court and allege that it is an illegal dismissal. Rather, he or she is obliged under the law to say he or she has been unfairly dismissed. The emphasis here being unfair or fairness. So as a boss, your job is really to show to the courts later on, if it ever got to that stage, that you have been fair and manage that staffing issue. That's guiding principle number one, or the first rule. The second guiding principle or rule says you got to understand the burden of proof requirement of the law, which requires you to document the underlying issue. Right? There has been a majority of court cases in this country where employers, companies lose cases related to absences. And for that matter, other issues, similar issues like late coming or medical issues. And the key reason being that it is the failure of the line manager to document the underlying issue in the first instance. Let me repeat that. It is the failure of the line manager to document the underlying employee issue. A common example is an employee is absent to work for say 1 or 2 days. What do we as line managers do? Perhaps in thinking that it's a very legalistic or technical issue, we are then faced with the idea that we should issue that staff a show cause letter, for instance. Now, for most managers, the idea of a show cause letter is unsavory, is unflattering, because the idea that you'd have to issue something so serious like a show cause or a technical sounding document puts many managers off. What you need to understand as a boss, though, is that the courts do not mandate. Remember, the industrial courts are a court of fairness, not a legal court per se. What they are interested in is evidence of documentation. And you here can issue stuff or documents such as an email to your staff. Even for that matter, social media documentations like WhatsApp group chats or email, Facebook groups are all accepted. Obviously, as a company, we would like to have some formality surrounding this documentation. So what I am suggesting to a manager is anytime you have a staff that is absent, late, or on MC, the key emphasis here is documentation. And you are free to send that email to your staff. For instance, a simple explanation email to your staff to say, look, I noticed you were absent last week, Thursday and Friday without informing me or attempting to contact me. Please explain. Now, this will go a long way in protecting the company. We do not know whether that staff is going to repeat that absence in the future, or the staff may improve and you may never have to face that problem again. But by documenting the employee's absence in the first instance, you safeguard the company's position. We don't know whether this staff will repeat it or other staff in your department may repeat it. Sometimes by not documenting this issue, but then another staff repeats the similar absence, but you choose to document it, that staff may plead victimization or unfair labor practice. So it's important here to document it in the first instance. And remember, our industrial courts are a court of fairness. They do not mandate documents such as show cause letters. It is fine to issue an email to your staff and simply wording that letter as your absence, for instance. I'm sorry to note that you were absent last Thursday and Friday. Please explain. That goes a long way in safeguarding the company's position, while at the same time ensuring that you maintain issues like transparency with regard to how you manage all your staffing issues.